So if the ivory bill is around, why don't you have a good photo of it? The central thing to remember about the ivory bill is there's never been a good photograph of an ivory billed woodpecker without having first found its cavity, its active cavity, where it's either a nest or a roost. And there are several reasons about that. But before I go any further, I want to make clear everything I say. I've studied the ivory bill for over 50 years. The bird is relatively an enigma, right? We don't understand the bird very well because by the time field ornithology became a discipline with the advent of the Cornell Lab of Ornithology in 1915 or 1917, so ornithology is the study of birds, ivory billed numbers had plummeted. So probably for habitat destruction after the war between the states and the woods were cut. So the point of that is back to the science and why, if the ivory bill exists, why don't we have photos? And the answer is the ivory bill, and this is a fair criticism. People think, oh, the ivory bill is this mythic, unphotographable animal. Well, it's true, the ivory bill was definitely subjected to hunting pressure, not only from poor people who ate the bird, but from about 1885 to about 1910, there was a real demand for the ivory bill as a collector's item, both for museums and for wealthy people with exhibits. And so the bird almost certainly adapted to hunting pressures. So I would say in 1860 you had two kinds of ivory-billed woodpeckers, loud ivory-billed woodpeckers and quiet ivory-billed woodpeckers. And by the 20th century, you only had quiet ivory bills. So that's one of the reasons, and that it's hard to photograph. Another reason is it's probably a very rare animal, and people laugh at that when I say probably. I say in complete good faith because we're in the city limits of Monroe, Louisiana, and even then it would be hard to get deep in those woods. There are all sorts of places, and I know Louisiana best, and we've done aerial surveys over the state. There are parts of the Atchafalaya Swamp, I'm not sure people have stepped foot on some of those islands in the last 100 years. Point of the story is, we just simply don't know how many ivory bills exist. But our strategy with the ivory bill, again, going back to that central point that there's never been a good photograph of an ivory bill without having first found its cavity. First and foremost, now that Fish and Wildlife Service has abandoned the effort to declare the ivory bill extinct and to remove protection for the bird's habitat, we're not as interested in getting a photograph. A photograph or a video would simply be incident, right? It would be part of the study that we want to do of ivory bills. So we've scaled back. We want to leave as small a footprint as possible. We have autonomous recording units where we think we've pinpointed where the birds might be nesting. So now that we know those areas, we monitor them, but as safely as with the least footprint as we can. So what we hope to do is find a breeding population of ivory bills, back off, and we will notify the appropriate authorities if it's on public land, and they can take over. So that's our approach.